Hi all, I hope you're having a nice afternoon. Whether it's Friday, we just met a little while ago for class, or whether you're into the weekend, or even at the beginning of the week. Though the sooner that you are watching this, the more helpful I think it will be for you to plan out how you'll work with the different pieces of our class in terms of the assignments. Alrighty, so first I'd like to spend a few minutes reviewing just some of the things to bear in mind from our class conversation over the course of this week. And then I'll speak specifically to the assignments for this week. And this is also presently available on the class website for you. So first of all, bear in mind the mindful living flow. There's not a lot of moving parts to this. Life happens. It affects us. As this week happens and life happens, notice how it affects you. Not analyzing it, figuring it out, wishing it were different. Just notice. Something happens, car pulls in front of you, line is longer than you thought, there's no line and you get right in. Life happens and it registers. And that registering is perhaps positive, pleasant, we could say, unpleasant, maybe neither. And then oftentimes, in ways that we may or may not detect, but if we're keeping an eye out for this, we might resist it in some ways. And so we want to be able to notice the telltale signs of resistance. And then, depending upon how we're relating to our experience, we're going to do something next, perhaps, or not do something. And whether it's skillful and useful, or whether it's maybe not quite what we would have liked, will just in some ways depend upon sort of what's happening here. And we've got these settling techniques like a few slower, deeper breaths that you could draw upon in moments of agitation or resistance in the forms that it might take. And we're learning mindfulness practices for, as we sort of said, the long game. We just took a little bit of a drop-in look at this. You might want to revisit it in chapter 1, where I go into a little bit more detail. But importantly, we want to begin to be able to overlay this rubric of life happens, some way it registers, perhaps some resistance, and then the ways that what happens next is easy and spontaneous and fluid and feels good, or is more encumbered and difficult, and to become a witness of this. So speaking of that, we discussed the puppy dog. This is my little reminder to talk with you about the puppy dog. So we have this puppy dog mind to reflect on that and to notice at times how you might get really excited by something or feel not so good about something, just like a puppy dog. But importantly, we've explored self-leadership, unlike the puppy dog to some extent. And I just can't really speak for the puppy dog experience, but I can imagine if the puppy dog hears a sound and runs off, or the puppy dog smells something tasty and goes after it, or the puppy dog has something that is a little bit, disconcerting and gets nervous, the puppy dog is very much just responding to what's taking place. There's not a lot of capacity to notice, observe, pause, reflect, but that's different for us. In many ways, we are continually going to be a puppy dog. We're going to go after things that are tasty and feel good, and we're going to be feel aversive to things that may not, and we're going to be maybe concerned at times about things that are a little bit confusing. And we can also notice and observe. We can watch our own puppy dog behavior. And so when we do a mindfulness practice, like the more formal one you'll be doing this week with the 6-minute practice and the 12-minute practice, you really have an opportunity to watch your puppy dog mind. Now, if you're going to train your puppy dog, as we talked about, you want to say stay, and then the puppy dog will do what the puppy dog will do. And so too, if you're going to lead yourself to this practice this week, you're going to sit down and essentially be saying to yourself, stay. And then to observe what happens next and to notice the difficulties and the challenges. And if for whatever reason, for any of this week's practices, you start it and at some point in time you decide to, abandon the project, you can write 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. You can just track your experience and what you noticed or what you observed. That's what's most important here. This is the Sherlock Holmes opportunity we have to really notice and witness and gather data on the path to greater understanding. Alrighty, so we looked a little bit about the time block method of tracking your time, and I provided you all with a page that you all could give that a try. This is optional. It's entirely for you. You might use it just to note your to-do list. You might use it to actually block a day and see what that's like, much like we did in class. You might use it just to make a note to somebody and give it to them and not even do anything with it. It was sharing with you something for you to draw upon as you wish. We're not going to really talk about it in class. You're not going to be turning anything in. You don't need to do anything with it. You might want to try to do something with it. Alrighty. In terms of the assignments, so there's a couple page reading from Mindfulness for Beginners. A reminder, keep this by the bed. You don't have to bring this to class. And I say don't bring it to class because I really want you to have it at the ready, by your bed when you're falling asleep, trying to fall asleep. Maybe you wake up and you, rather than turn to some device, you turn to this device in a way. Couple of pages reading from this book. Chapter 2 on attention in the Mindful Law Student book. And you'll see that on the class website, there is a one-page writing assignment for you to do after you read Chapter 2 on attention. It gives you 5 questions to reflect on and to write answers to. Please do your best to keep it to one page. Put your name on it as well so that when they're printed out and I take a look at them, I know it's you and I am able to keep it on one page. Alrighty. In addition to the reading from the book, you also will have a couple of, I think, really wonderful readings that you'll enjoy immensely. That's a big word, immensely, but I believe it to be the case. In the binder. One is the chapter from my colleague Amishi Jha's book, Peak Mind, and the chapter is on Attention is Your Superpower. This is a really wonderful book. The whole book is wonderful. This chapter sort of kicks things off where she talks about the importance of attention. And she gives some of her own personal anecdotes around attention and sometimes the lack thereof, and also gets a little bit into the science in a very understandable and I think accessible way about attention and the great strengths of attention and the vulnerabilities of attention. There's something in the webpage to have you reflect on and then make notes about, so that when you come to class, and I suggest that you make the notes in the back of the handout, you have a section on notes. So you can make notes so that when you come to class and I say, okay, what were some of the things that you all took away from in response to the question posed on her chapter, you're not thinking about it, trying to remember it. You actually can go to your notes and you actually have something written down to say, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, hey, what were some of the things that you all thought about? And that will help our discussion, and it will also help you more readily have something to say. Because if you're like me, at the time you read something or think about it, you've got a lot of thoughts, and then when 2, 3, 5 days later you're asked to comment on it, it's more loose, and we really want to have a cogent, tight conversation around things. And to me, the real-time observations, whether it's of your practice or whether it's of something you read, can be among the most useful. There's also a great 2 or 3 page reading, Life Lessons from the Poker Table. And you'll read a little bit about both Amishi and Maria Konnikova in chapter 2, but this allows you to go a little deeper, and I think you'll find this reading to be really instructive. And we'll talk about it in class, although there's nothing in particular you need to write down, but you may want to write down your notes or some questions you have on this 2.5 page piece. Those are the readings. Lastly, we have our practice journal. And you'll see that I lay out for you day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. So I'm very prescriptive. This is what to do. Know that maybe like it was day 3 or day 4 that you get outside You can mix it up if you want. You can say, I want to get outside tomorrow and do the outside thing on a different day. But you'll see how it builds. Essentially, what you'll be doing is this. We are now moving to that 6-minute practice that you'll have on the app. And one day you'll sit and begin with your 1 to 6. So you'll take 1 minute, present moment pivot. And then you'll listen to the 6-minute focused attention practice on the website. The next day, you'll do 2 minutes present moment pivot, and then immediately followed by listening to the 6-minute practice. As you might imagine, on day 3, you'll do 3 minutes. That's the 1 to 18. And then you'll listen to the 6-minute practice. So really, you've got 7 minutes allocated for practice, 8 minutes allocated for practice, and 9 minutes allocated for practice. Then one day you'll get outside and you'll bring your binder with you and your crayons. I only have this dog. What I could have done if I'd only had 24 crayons, but I only had 8. Of course, from these 8, you can make 24 different colors. So what you'll do is you'll get outside and you'll find a tree, and you will first do the present moment pivot. You'll set your timer for 12 minutes. So 12 minutes. You'll do the present moment pivot for 1 minute, and then you'll spend 11 minutes drawing the tree. And really, if you finish in less than 11 minutes, then your instruction is to sit there like this, waiting for the timer. But I encourage you not to, we could probably draw from today's song, Vienna, not to just rush to get ahead of yourself to get the thing done, but to actually savor the doing of drawing of the tree. If at some point you're like, I'm done, like you're feeling restless, or like, oh my God, how much more time can I take drawing a tree? Then sit back for a minute or two and then look at the tree again and notice something that you didn't notice before. Maybe it's something behind the tree. Maybe it's something, I assure you, this is why we're interested in learning a little bit about attention and the power of attention and the way attention can dull sometimes. We can sort of dull out a little bit when we think we're done or are feeling restless. So then get back to it, and there's always more that can be done. Alrighty. I will at times be having us go around and show our drawings, not at a distance, just around the class. And so if for some reason that would be very uncomfortable for you, let me know. And if you don't, let me know. But as we go around, you can just sort of say, not put it up. But I most of the time, most of us are very happy to show our drawings. And some of you will think you're the next Picasso or Rembrandt or Renoir or whomever, Mary Cassatt. Others may feel like, oh my God, this is the worst puppy in the world. That's okay. We are going to have our own content, our own narration of our experiences. Alrighty. Then there'll be another day where you're listening to the 12-minute focused attention practice. And you just have it where it's just the 12-minute practice. So you can see how we're building up. It's 5 days. I may have left one of them out. I'm not sure. I may have just talked about 4 days. But you'll see how they build in this regard. Importantly, as I think I may have mentioned earlier, if you don't quite get through it, if for some reason you're feeling antsy or you say, oh, I need to do something else or whatever, and you stop it early, that's okay. Just make a note that that's what you did. I think most of us will be able to sit through it and become increasingly resilient. We're sort of developing resilience. Can I just sort of stay with my experience even when my experience isn't the most stimulating and exciting? I mean, you are spending time with one of the most extraordinary people in the world, yourself, and so you and then afterwards you'll just make some observations. Some of you like to fill it in and really write a lot. Some of you a sentence or two. It's all good. It's really just a few moments to drop in on what did you observe. Importantly, don't think about your experience as it's happening with the intention to write it down, like trying to remember it. If you are doing that, then notice that you're doing that. And then what you might write down is, I was spending my time trying to remember. Like, that would be interesting to know that that's where your mind was going, but trust that whatever it is you have to say after, whatever you recall, even if it's, I don't remember anything, that works too. They're all equally useful. There are no better things, there are no better observations. Alrighty. If you have any questions about any of this, please reach out at any time. One last thing. You'll see on the webpage that for the assignments that the very first thing I have is for you to watch a video. So there is a short video, a YouTube video, that I would like for you to watch before you do any of the readings or you get into, the readings. You don't need to do it before you do your practice. And we'll talk about that in class as well. Alrighty. Wishing you all a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week, a happy holiday weekend. I hope things are well. I hope you're productive. I hope it's enjoyable. I hope you find time to relax and sort of savor the moments of your life. Perhaps play Vienna and listen to that song a couple times and sort of zero in on what it might offer, or just have it as your own mindfulness practice of focusing attention on an object, in this case the song, and when you notice your mind wandering, if you choose to, come back to the song. And that's maybe the final takeaway. Whether we're counting to 6 a bunch of times in a bunch of different ways, whether we are focusing on our breath or the sound of the air conditioner, whether we're listening to a guided practice, whether we're outside drawing a tree, whether we're, doing any of these practices, we are really, when all is said and done, directing our attention in an intentional way, with an intention to stay with the object that we're focusing on. Inevitably, the mind wanders. If we have the intention to do so and we work with this, we become more skillful at noticing that mind wandering sooner and sooner, and we're able to bring our attention back to the object. Hopefully, in class, in the way this has been discussed, we realize that this isn't some esoteric little practice that we do where we're sort of, focusing on this or that in a way that doesn't really relate to the rest of our life. This is what we're already doing with the rest of our life. Here we are creating a little opportunity to really look a little more deeply into the nature of the moments of our life so that we can be more skillful, more effective, and able to deliver a little bit more than we might otherwise, which is already pretty good. Let's not see the fullness and the wonderfulness of what we're already accomplishing, but maybe to sort of move the dial up a little bit and move a little bit further along in the direction that we'd like. Alrighty, and we're only 2 weeks in. Imagine that. Be well, everyone.